Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be going over a surprisingly strong Palafin deck actually, that I've been working on for the new format. So basically, when I first reviewed Palafin, I really didn't think this card was anything too special, to be honest, and I honestly still have some reservations about its true power. But it does have two pretty strong attacks, Jet Punch and Justice Kick. Jet Punch does 30 damage and then 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which is pretty nice in a pinch and good for finishing off KOs if Justice Kick didn't quite do enough damage. And then the main attack, Justice Kick, which is the main appeal of Palafin really, for 2 Water Energy does 210 damage, but if his Pokemon didn't move from the bench to the active during your turn, this attack does nothing. So it is a pretty awkward effect to meet, but basically we have to get 2 energy on a Palafin and then switch it into the active spot. But if we can do that, then 210 damage is an awful lot for a single prizer to be doing. Now, I did want to keep this as budget friendly as possible, even with regards to IRL and Pokemon TCG Live. But having said that, I do think the Palkia V-Star variant of this deck, showcased by LDF as well actually, is definitely the better version of this deck. I'll probably do some gameplay for that variant at some point in the future. But I do think Palkia V-Star is necessary. I know it's a 2-prizer and takes away from the budget single prize aspect quite a bit. But still, Palkia, very, very strong Pokemon, just a good backup attacker, as well as being able to charge up energy for your Radiant Greninja, as well as Palafin. So Palkia V-Star, definitely the best way of charging up your Palafins. However, the partner that I've opted to go for here, and I found this, well, I found like a sort of variant of this list on, I think it was Twitter or something, for Japan. And someone in Japan was actually running it with Altaria. Now, their list was also using a lot of cards from the next set, 151, including this new item card called Energy Sticker, which will actually be a pretty flippy way of accelerating energy, but it is a coin flip and it's not out yet, so I did have to make some improvements and some tweaks to the list. But basically, this paired up with this Altaria, which has 90 HP, which is really nice because it means you can find Level Ball with it. And it has the ability Tempting Tune that says once in your turn, you may search your deck for a support card, reveal it, shuffle your deck, then put it on top of your deck. So you can do this before you attack, and then the following turn just draw into that supporter, even if you get like Ionode per se. So that's really nice, but we do have the Skwovet in here, so what we can do is shuffle our hand, put it at the bottom of our deck, then draw a card, and then that will probably be the supporter that we've used for Altaria. So pretty nice combo in that regard. Also, Altaria has a really good property in the fact that it has free retreat, which is of course super useful when paired up with Palafin because we need to meet the effect of Justice Kick. Also, we also have Cleffa in here. Cleffa has Grasping Draw, which is just a really nice attack to open the game with if we start Cleffa, or we can switch into it. It also has free retreat, which is just really nice, so it's another pivot on a basic. You could run something like Silazar, but I just prefer Cleffa because it doesn't cost an energy, and I'd rather allocate an energy to a Palafin if I can avoid it. If I can, I prefer to put my energy on Finzians and Palafins as opposed to, something like Silazar. But it's really a matter of preference at that point. Also, the Finzian, something worth mentioning actually, I probably should have mentioned at the start, but this Finzian has 50 HP, which is pretty weak compared to, I think it's the other Finzian that has around 70 HP or something. Wait, is there a way of finding the Finzians? If I go up here, and I should be able to find the other one. Okay, so apparently I don't own any other Finizians. Show not owned. Okay, there we go. And it's not even loaded in. Great. Okay, there we go. So yeah, there is another Finzian that has 90 HP. So if you prefer having bulkier basics, then you could run this one if you really wanted to. But honestly, I prefer this one because it has the attack Violent Evolution. It says you can switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, and if you do, you can search your deck for Palafin and evolve it, which is honestly a really nice attack to have because it means we can switch into stuff like a Cleffa, which could be offered up as a sacrifice, I guess, if we really want to, or something like a Swablu, which we can then evolve into Altaria, or for its Cleffa, just switch into Palafin the following turn. So honestly, a really nice attack if you have to go second. As for the rest of the deck, we are playing 2 copies of Pyukumuku. This was an idea from Japan, and honestly surprised at how much I like this because Pyukumuku is a super useful way of drawing cards. Obviously, it does have some decent synergy with the Altaria as well. But basically, why Pyukumuku is in here is it's just to put on board my deck and draw a single card. Nothing too crazy, I know, but there's not really the bench space or deck space for stuff like Bibarel without removing Altaria. and honestly I didn't want to try and shove in Bibarel again, so I went for Pyukumuku. It's working out pretty well so far. Of course, if you open with it, it's pretty bad, but still pretty decent tech card and worth considering. We also have Radiant Greninja in here, which of course would be better with Palkia V-Star, but because we're not playing Palkia, Radiant Greninja is exclusively here for the ability Conceal Cards. Once in your turn, we may discard an energy and draw 2 cards, which is pretty useful in a pinch. And we also play 9 basic energy just for reference. As for the trainers, there's nothing terribly crazy in terms of Pokemon search. 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball, 4 Level Ball, just because we're trying to be as consistent as possible. No Battle VIP Pass, because I found that VIP Pass is pretty bad if you're not playing like heavy counts of Research, Serena, or Curler engines, for example. Kind of clogs your hand a bit sometimes, so no Battle VIP Pass in this variant. Also playing a Pal Pad. I think Pal Pad's super underrated at the minute in terms of just an easy item card to tech into your deck. Very strong, especially if you're playing a lot of unique supporters that we are, because Altaria can find them, so it just makes sense that we play a lot of unique ones that are easy to find, and thus Pal Pad can be used to get back some of those more niche supporters. Also playing 1 copy of Switch, just to switch in and out. 3 copies of Super Rod, which might seem a bit excessive, and I'm not sure if I like this change that much. I might swap a Super Rod for maybe an escape rope or something, just in case something else gets stuck on the bench. But either way, 3 copies of Super Rod, just so we can constantly chain Palafins and also get some energy back if we really need to. Then kind of like the main sort of energy engine, I guess, is EXP Share, which is a bit flippant, of course, because I know that no one really plays Tool Scrapper or Lost Vacuum anymore, but still, EXP Share, you still have to find these guys, and they are kind of annoying. Plus, you do have to, get the energy on Palafin in the first place for EXP Share to be worth it. So it doesn't really help you with accelerating energy into the game, it just helps you with preserving it, which is still pretty decent, and we do play 4 copies, but honestly, XP Share obviously isn't the best option, in the format, sadly. So yeah, definitely where Palkia V-Star would be a better choice. Then we've got 2 copies of Temple of Sinnoh, so beating out stuff like Pokemon League H Quarters, or something like Artisan. But honestly, I really like Temple of Sinnoh, just all special energy becomes colorless energy. Mew VMAX is still seeing a bunch of play because it won World's Championships, I guess. I mean, Mew it's a bit flippant right now because, of course, Charizard is super popular as well. But Mew does see a lot of play, and there's also the Lugia deck, which is kind of bouncing around a bit. So Temple of Sinnoh, still a really nice option. It can also disrupt Arceus a little bit. But honestly, Temple of Sinnoh, I could honestly see this being cut from a list in favor of something like Artisan or even Pokestop, to be honest. But yeah, Temple of Sinnoh, still not sure about this card, but I still think it's a pretty nice inclusion. We also got 1 copy of Raihan over here, just because we need an actual way of accelerating energy. Plus, it's a one-off, so we can find it with Altaria. Most of the time, I'm okay with tossing a Raihan into a Stage 2 deck, regardless if I can find it consistently or not, just because it's such a good supporter in the turns that you find it. But either way, 1 copy of Raihan. 2 copies of Serena, actually. Serena's not a supporter you see very often these days, but I still think it's a really good option to have. It has 2 different effects, so you can sculpt 3 cards from your hand and then drop to 5, or you can switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon V with their active Pokemon. So it's kind of like a very specific gust or just another draw option. And because you can just discard a bunch of items usually, then the first effect isn't terrible either. So honestly, I really like Serena, definitely a card worth considering. Also run 2 copies of Irida. I know Irida is a bit more expensive than most of the other supporters, but still a fantastic option if you can afford Irida's IRL. Then we've got 3 Cynthia's Ambition, just a great supporter if something was knocked out. 1 copy of Research because we do want some burst options some turns, especially towards the late game. But in the early game, you don't really want to be discarding, multiple EXP shares, multiple Palafins, that sort of thing. Then we have 1 copy of Roxanne. Roxanne really fell off when the Drizzle and Inteleon engine kind of rotated out. But honestly, Roxanne's still a super good supporter, especially since we're not playing any multiple prize Pokemon. So basically, our opponent will always go down to 3 prizes. And then we can just Altaria for Roxanne. They get shuffled down to 2, and we get to shuffle up to 6. So very strong supporter, very disruptive. Honestly, you could probably pair this up with Path to the Peak or something for even more disruption, but still a very strong supporter and worth considering. And then 1 copy of Arven. This was an addition that I made to the deck purely because I just really like Arven as a supporter card. Helps with finding those EXP shares as well as stuff like the one-off switch, which can be a bit annoying to find. But yeah, this is the Palafin budget deck. Let me know if you want to see any gameplay for it. I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be honest, and that's obviously a good thing because I prefer it when I'm wrong most of the time when it comes to budget decks. Because I know I can be a bit negative when it comes to new Pokemon as well. So yeah, let me know what you think about Palafin down below. It's been Aaron Power, and hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.